PA? Any one of you
Mm-hmm.
can answer or both can answer.
Yeah. So your question is, what are the
Just wanted to prepare myself for
mhm.
what's in future.
Yeah. So to become a good PA, first thing I like to say is attention to detail. Devil lies in the nitty gritties of it. So uh, the more detailed analysis that you will do, the more attention to details you will do upfront, that is going to make your life very easy. And that's from my personal experience. So let's say there is a requirement, right? uh, you were under pressure of time, and manager is saying, deliver the stories, and you just look at the requirement from the top perspective, and you just wrote the stories, and then you pass them on. So at this stage, you might be feeling like, okay, I have achieved something, I have written 10 user stories, 20 user stories in such a short time. But then what will happen is, it is going to come back and bite you. And how that will work is, like, when you go for grooming session, when you discuss the requirements with your development team or testing team, they are going to ask you scenarios like, what will happen if that is the case, what will happen if that is the case. They'll come up with all the negative scenarios, and they will come up with all your questions. And now what you'll say is, okay, let me understand this, and let me get back to you. And then what you'll do is, you'll analyze it, in respect of the scenarios that they have given. And then you'll realize that maybe the solution may not work. So you may end up doing the rework on your requirements. And let's say, we have a good case, and it's not that bad. So you add some more requirements to your stories, you go back to your customer, and get the approval on those as well, and you pass them on. What will happen then is, during testing, team will come up with more scenarios, and they'll be like, what will happen in this case, what will happen in that case. And similarly, same thing will happen when you go for UAT and SIT, and users will come with more scenarios, and they'll be like, but this is not working, that is not working. So if you would have done a quite opposite of it, and if you would have spent a day or two extra to do a proper analysis, to do a proper impact analysis, to give attention to the details, attention to different scenarios that could have happened. You would have thought of what my user experience will be look like, why my user is using this system, what he'll do after this, what will do after that, what if he does something that is not he was supposed to not do, right? So if you think of all these exception scenarios, alternate scenarios, if you spend a day or two extra, and you come up with detailed requirements, then it's going to make your life much easy later. Because then development team will not have much queries, they'll have everything written down in your document, right? Testing team will not have much queries, and when they do the development and testing, they will not bother you much. But otherwise, if you do not give attention to details, if you do not do a proper analysis, then it's going to be a nightmare for you, because you will be working on new requirements, as well as you will be trying to sort out the other requirements which you have finalized already. You see what I mean? So in order
Right.
to avoid parallel work, it is very important that you just give few hours extra, and you do a detailed analysis. Yeah.
So effective communication plays a key role, I believe.
Communication is important. Communication is very important. But business analysis is the key. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Many people
So
think
domain
that
knowledge and all.
yeah, so many people think that writing requirements is the part of is what BA does. I kind of disagree. I say business analysis is what BA does.
Yeah, Chetan, I would like to add something. So, if you are working on a project, if the requirements are not clear or the requirements development is impossible, you should not say no directly. So, you have to say no in an indirect format, in a way that client should accommodate. So, that's where the key role of BA's nitty-gritty lies in. So, we have to develop our negotiation skills in
Right.
a way that client has to accommodate. So they have to nod, okay, yes, for this. So every word, so we are delivering. So anyway, and we are delivering the business values to the client. So whatever we are communicating customer, every word by word, it is very important, because the session, if we are talking to client over session, it is recordable. Each and every word of document is recordable. Every verbatim used for years is recordable. So at the end, after it goes live, if the functionality is not working, if the functionality is hampering, so they have a valid point to argue with this. So as a BA, we should not let that happen. So we have to be very diligent in communication, documentation, everything. Basically, stake management. So as a domain BA, you can learn domain or anything like that. So stakeholder management is the one you will be learning on daily basis. You have to learn, you have to unlearn. So some clients will be like this, some clients will be like that. If you're working on global environment, so country specific client will be there, continent specific client will be there. So as a business analyst, you have to understand yourself. So before doing any, before sending any mails or before facing the client, you should prepare yourself. So you have to chalk out a plan. So you have to analyze what project is this, what is the scope of the project, what is the delivery value, so what is the delivery timeline, what's our role, so how do we use this. You have to analyze some data on the historical aspect. You have to inquire with your senior counterparts, the how's the contents like, how's the client. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to mold yourself in such a way that BA should be a dynamic person. So this is what something I have to say about it from my past
Right.
experience.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Sarveshwar. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Saraveshwar. Another thing I like to add, Chetan, is documentation. So documentation is very important. What will happen, when you are talking to developers, when you are talking to testers, and even client, they'll tell you something. You tell them something. So until and unless you add it to the document, you are not going to remember it, and that becomes quite tricky because you don't know when your requirement will be picked up. So let's say your requirement is picked up after 2-3 sprints, and that is roughly 1.5 to 2 months. You may not remember each and everything that you have discussed, right? So you might have taken some decisions while writing the requirements. You might have taken some assumptions. So you should have a track of what you assumed, why you have taken a certain approach. So all that information should be documented somewhere. You might be having an idea in your mind, like this is how the system will work. So just put it down on the paper, and then you will realize that there are flaws in the scenarios that you have worked out in your mind. So once you put that on paper, be it a Word, be it Excel, or be it any document. So once you start writing it, then you will realize what are the gaps. And let's say you have written a user story, you have passed it on, and then teams come up with some XYZ scenario. So if that scenario is not covered in your user story already, just go and update your story, even if it is a note, or even if you are adding to the history, or whatever. But do document each and everything. Otherwise, do not rely on your memory, because we are working on so many things in parallel that it becomes quite tricky. But if you have a document in hand, it becomes very easy to just refer to that document. And do not rely on emails, because many times what will happen is we'll say, yes sir, this was discussed in an email and I have a track of the email. But believe me, at the end of a year or so, you will have thousands and 2,000 emails in your mailbox, and it becomes literally impossible to track a single email, no matter how uh, good you are in organizing your emails. You might have put all your emails in one mailbox, but the more time passes, the more unmanageable it becomes. So do not rely on emails. So if you have taken a key decision and there is a rationale for taking that decision, just note it down in the user story, in the document that is the source of truth for you, right? So documentation is also important. So do not leave anything to assumption. Do not think that people will know this already, right? So uh, do not
Yeah,
BA does not make assumptions. So you have to document your assumptions as well. Do not think that it is obvious what you meant by this. But believe me, you will see scenario where people will come back to you and say that this is not how they assumed it to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So thanks, Chetan. Thanks for asking that question.